Sonic and the Black Knight released in 2009, and it's a game about Sir Sonic, Knight of the Wind, who is plunged into this medieval world filled with knights and whatever the hell these things are. As Sonic travels through this world, he encounters many familiar faces, like the Knights of the Round Table, who seem to resemble some of his friends from home. Sonic conquers King Arthur. Now there would be a lot more to that summary, but I'm not here for the game. I'm here to talk about something else. I'm here to talk about the toy company Jazwares and their history with the tie-in Sonic and the Black Knight action figures. So in order to learn about that, I'm gonna have to take you back in time. Now you might be wondering why I'm talking about Sonic and the Black Knight, a very old Sonic the Hedgehog title from the Nintendo Wii. And that's because I quite frankly, love the game's aesthetic and presentation. Sure, the gameplay wasn't really the best, but I mean, the designs and the characterization in the game was Sonic at its peak, in my opinion.
You can cancel me for that, I don't care. It's just my opinion, go ahead and cancel me.
And growing up in the early 2000s, you know, I was a child getting the Jazwares Sonic the Hedgehog action figures, and the Sonic and the Black Knight ones were some of my favorites growing up. Now the line primarily consists of 4 unique characters. You have modern Sonic with Caliburn and his gauntlet, then you have Sir Lancelot's Shadow, Excalibur Sonic, and then Sir Galahad. Now, I'm sure for those of you guys who are fans of this franchise, you know that these figures are practically impossible to get your hands on nowadays, with prices for, hell, even Sir Galahad going up to the thousands. It's actually quite absurd how expensive some of these figures are. And I figured that since these are some of my favorites, and you know, it would be a great time to really document these characters and these action figures, because who knows how many of these figures are going to be left over for years to come. Now, before I get started, I just want to give a huge thanks to a few people in my community who have helped me get my hands on some of these figures and even helped me with some research on these figures. First off, a good friend of mine, SwitchGamma, over on Instagram. He has an amazing collection where he documents Jazwares action figures and all the different unique variants within the line. And who knew there were so many different variants of a standard 3-inch Sonic himself. So he helped me with some of the images, and I'll be crediting him down in the description below. Go check out his stuff, it's amazing. Also, huge thanks to Chaotic Cobain in my Discord server for actually lending me his Sir Galahad visor, since mine was missing his. So he let me borrow it for the purpose of printing a replica one, as well as using it for this documentation. And then also ShortMoto3 on TikTok, who actually gave me his Sir Galahad action figure in a trade, and this is honestly one of my grail figures, and without him, this beauty right here would not be here in front of me. And then, last but not least, Chappie's over in my Discord server, and you'll see him a few times in my comments and YouTube live streams, for actually sending me this boxed Sir Lancelot figure, and as well as supplying a few of the swords for my shadows. Huge thanks to him, and without these people, I wouldn't have been able to do this sort of thing today. Alright, so let's jump right in. The line first started in 2009 with the single-release Modern Sonic with Caliburn and the Gauntlet, and the figure is just Jazwares' standard 5-inch Sonic that they released by himself, but they swapped his hand with the Gauntlet and gave him Caliburn. This guy isn't super notable. The sculpt of this figure screams early 2000s Sonic. He has a very unique sculpt that looks nothing like his game appearance, and that's what makes him way more charming. And his articulation is very odd because his legs can't really bend forwards. They kind of just swivel and then bend outwards to the sides, which is very limiting in his articulation. But I mean, if you just have him displayed in one way, then you're not really going to run into any issues. The gauntlet swivels in 360 degrees, and the sword can come out of his hand. Now, this particular figure has had 2 releases, the first one being in the Sonic and the Black Knight branded action figure cases, and then later on being branded in the Jazwares iconic orange packaging. I don't know if there are any variants between the two. I would love to hear if you guys have any information on that one. And then to go along with the modern Sonic, you also have the 3-inch version of him with Caliburn, who is actually a very, very cool figure because he is so small, but that Caliburn and Gauntlet make a huge difference on this guy. And there are a few different releases of this guy. First one releasing in 2009, then later they were mass produced in
2010.
Where there were a lot of them. A lot of the versions you'll find online are the
2010
version, and you can actually tell by the printing on the bottom of the soles. Alright, here's some pictures comparing the soles of the shoes and their production dates, provided by SwitchGamma. Here you can see the left figure is the 09 release with the production date marking 8/12/2009, and with the right being 4/6/2010. And pretty much every single Jazwares figure has this, so if you're curious to see when your figure was made, just look at their shoes. Now, SwitchGamma owns the US version of the figure and the UK one in box, and sent me some pictures to compare both of them. He wanted me to mention how rare the UK version of this figure is, because this specific figure was part of the beginning of Jazwares figure distribution in the UK. So it's a really cool item to have, especially in box. You could see some of the differences between the two, such as the way the peg holes are placed, the Toys R Us label on the US version, and for some reason, the first release Sonic is missing his right arm in the picture, but that's completely fixed in the UK version. A silly little quirk that the Wave 1 Jazwares figures had. Now getting into the 5-inch line, which is the major standout of this line. You have some crazy, wicked, unique sculpts on these guys. Sir Lancelot, Excalibur Sonic, and Galahad. Like, these guys are fantastic next to one another, and they really they have a strong aura on my shelf. I think one of my absolute favorite things about the Jazwares lines that I wish modern day brands would do is unique game exclusive packaging. This packaging of Sir Lancelot in the Sonic and the Black Knight box, it's very unique, and it's almost like a time capsule. I look at this and I think of the time when the game came out and I had my Nintendo Wii and I was swinging my Wii remote around, and this just really makes me feel young again, almost, looking at this figure on the shelves, hoping my mother would buy it for me. Fortunately, she did, and I accidentally broke them, but that's what you do when you play with toys as a kid. First, we're gonna look at Excalibur Sonic. Now, he has roughly about 13 points of articulation. His shoulders swivel, but the movement is kind of hindered by his shoulder pads. His elbows bend, and his wrists rotate 360 degrees. His legs also have the same 3 points of articulation, but are also very hindered by his armor and his torso. And his head rotates 360 degrees. This guy is like impossible to stand up because of how top heavy he is, and his feet just really don't stand flat. So I have to have a little action figure stand just to get him to stand up well. Now, Excalibur Sonic actually had two different releases. There's a first version and a second version that released in 2014. The first version released in 2012. I have the second version, and the main difference between the two is that, funnily enough, the first version of him is slightly more accurate, where he has his ears painted the correct color, the sword is painted more accurately, and his visor actually splits into two parts instead of just one, like seen in the 2014 version. So mine, I only have the single molded visor, so it just swivels up and down, not too much. And then I actually have the Wave 1 sword because that's the only one I was able to get my hands on. Finding these guys online is like a treasure hunt. It's like finding a needle in a haystack. Sometimes you'll find just the accessories online. Hell, you'll even just find a single shoe for one of these characters online, going for an absurd amount. It's a lot easier to find the 2014 version of Excalibur Sonic fully intact, mainly because of that visor being one solid piece. Nonetheless, he looks fantastic. His paint, his gold metallic paint, is something that you don't really see much on action figures nowadays. A lot of figures, if they were to make this guy, he would probably just be solid yellow, and it would kind of just be an eyesore. So looking back at this guy is just, it really goes to show that Jazwares really wanted to make him look as badass as possible. I also want to mention that this guy has a glow-in-the-dark sword. Now, I used my UV flashlight to charge up the glow on it, but when I turned it off, it glows pretty bright. It's awesome. I also adore the fact that each and every single one of these figures has a face sculpt underneath their visors. So you can remove all their visors and you can see all of their hedgehog faces underneath. It's quite charming. My only criticism for it is that I wish he would stand better, and maybe that his arms could bend a little bit more and he could hold the sword, because right now the sword's kind of just resting in his hand and on the desk, so it doesn't really go into his hand that well. Now we have Sir Lancelot. Sir Lancelot is Shadow's counterpart in the Sonic and the Black Knight universe, and this guy goes for a pretty penny on the internet. A lot of people may not have realized that there are two versions of this guy. There is this purple armor variant and the gray armor variant. The gray armor variant was the first one to release, and he released in 2012, while the purple armor variant released in the later end of 2014. There, I don't really know what their thought process was behind making him purple, but he is a very cool variant. I really like the color difference, and the metallic on the purple, it looks very, very clean. He is never seen in-game with purple armor, so I think they just took some creative freedom and took it upon themselves to do that. And actually, this second release version of him is actually slightly more accurate in terms of his appearance. Disregarding the purple armor, his upper arms are actually black, whereas the first release has gray upper arms, which is inaccurate. And then also the purple version has some printing details on the sword that the gray version does not have. They are both the same exact sculpt, just some things are slightly different. Another difference I noticed is that the rallies on his quills are also shaped slightly better on the purple version compared to the gray version. You're gonna have a much harder time finding the gray version online intact, as he goes for significantly more than the purple one, but the purple one does go for a lot as well. He has 13 points of articulation as well, 3 points in his arms, his wrists swivel 360 degrees, and same for his legs. His feet rotate 360 degrees. I guess you could count the visor as a point of articulation, so I guess 14, and his visor does move up and down, where you can see his face. This guy kind of has the same issue as Sonic, and it's kind of a recurring thing in the Jazwares line that they're kind of hard to stand up. I feel like they took priority of the sculpt and appearance over practicality, because Lancelot, you can't really get him into many poses. He's very limited in range, and his elbows don't bend too much. Same for his knees, but his presence alone makes him look really cool. I'm really interested to hear which version of the Lancelot you prefer more. If you prefer the purple version or the gray version. I really love the gray version just because it's a little bit more game accurate, but something about that purple armor I really love. The purple armor Sir Lancelot came in a single release, and he also came in a 2-pack with Excalibur Sonic featuring the second release of him and purple Sir Lancelot. That pack is very, very hard to find, and I don't exactly know where it released myself. If you know, I'd love to hear down in the comment section below. Now, I just wanted to say about that 2-pack is that the Jazwares wiki says that it was released exclusive to Toys R Us Express stores, but there's no concrete evidence of that being true. The set very well could have been available at other massive retail stores, such as Toys R Us, etc., but the wiki isn't exactly accurate, as it says that there was a re-release of 3-inch silver in 2015 in Japan, for some reason, even though Jazwares ended in 2014. Now, finally, the most elusive one of the entire Black Knight set is Sir Galahad. Now, this guy is a pain in the rear end for collectors because he released near the tail end of Jazwares' run. Jazwares ended up losing the license in fall of 2014, and that's when this guy was released. And the reason why he didn't really release as many is because Jazwares kind of fell off near the end, and they didn't ship out as much product as they used to, which is why Galahad got the short end of the stick. And it's actually really, really unfortunate because he is probably the best engineered figure out of all of them. He stands really well out of box, and his paint is immaculate. His paint is very, very good. His sword is awesome, and he feels like a much sturdier figure compared to the other figures. Now, Sir Galahad has about 14 points of articulation. His wrists rotate 360 degrees, as well as the boots. There's a little cut between his cuff and his boots can rotate individually. It's very interesting, but his knees don't bend like at all. He has like plates above his cuffs on his boots that just completely hinder the movement of his knees. It is quite strange they decided to have that included. His elbows do bend a decent amount, and his arms actually move a good bit. His shoulder pads get in the way a tad bit, but not too much. You can see without his visor, he's got a little frown on his face. He looks very angry and ready to fight, and his sword kind of just rests in his hand. It doesn't really pose well or stand in there that nicely. It's really sad because, for those of you who don't know, before Jazwares lost the license, they were slated to make some more Sonic and the Black Knight figures, including Sir Gawain and Blacksmith Tales. I wish with everything in my being that they got to hold the license for just a little bit longer, because I would have killed for a Sir Gawain figure. He would have really completed this set, and maybe even a Percival. It is kind of weird that they chose Galahad over Percival or Gawain, considering Galahad was only in the multiplayer. But I'm not complaining, I'll take it. It's funny because near the tail end of Jazwares' run, Silver seemed to have gotten a lot of love with the superposer that they released and even a new sculpt that they had released for the 3-inch Silver figure, which SwitchGamma actually pointed out to me as well. So it makes me wonder if one of the higher ups at Jazwares really liked Silver. Now that was really it for this video talking about this amazing piece of Sonic merchandise history. This Sonic and the Black Knight line, like I said, is one of my favorite action figure lines that I currently own. These characters all look super unique with some very, very impressive sculpts that I haven't really yet seen another company replicate. I can only hope that in the future we will see reproductions of these guys, not necessarily from Jazwares, but maybe see Jakks Pacific's own take on these characters in their 4-inch line. I mean, I think that would really, really satisfy some collectors' need to get some of these figures if they can have them in the modern day. And I hope you guys enjoyed this little kind of history lesson type video. I would really love to do this for some of the other lines in the Sonic the Hedgehog merchandise area. I'd love to hear some recommendations for some lines you'd like to hear me do a deep dive on, or just some lines you want me to kind of review, I suppose. I think it's really fun for me because I love looking at my old toys. But don't you forget to like and subscribe and become an OG, because that's what everybody wants to be. I am TitoTheOG, and I will see you guys next time.